Good morning, and thank you for joining me on a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So, I wanted to come to you guys. I was doing my morning routine and drinking my coffee, listening to the news on my Google speaker, and this stock report podcast came across, and I didn't catch the name of the podcast, so please forgive me. But I'm going to play a clip here. It's about a 4 minute um, interview that this young lady did with a chief executive, and she was giving a breakdown on the stocks and what she expects from the beige book. And for those who don't know what that is the Federal Reserve, just to see uh, which region is performing and which region is not, to sum it up, I guess, financially, to see where we are in the economy. So, as they were going through the conversation, she mentioned something and it brought me right back to politics. Um, she mentioned how other countries were opening up and they were getting the vaccine out. And, I'm going to let you guys listen to the entire clip all the way through. And, the U.S. is, headed that way. We're getting many, many doses to go ahead and, start the reopening process. And it's so funny how this is tied in. And this is something about stocks. And all this is just tied in to politics. And it's so crazy because the U.S. is so used to being the first to do this, the first to do that, yeah. I still don't believe the moon shit, but whatever. It takes a different human being to digest and say, $1,400 is enough. And, she did say in the interview, a lot of people were not affected versus where a lot of people were hit very hard. And that's one of the things I did take from it and respect it. But the ties back to the community as far as region and which region is doing successful versus what region is not, you can only take a wild guess on how many regions are performing proudly and how many of those regions are black communities. So I want you guys to listen to the clip, digest it, tie it into the politics that we have going on today. They're trying to set a bill in motion, but it probably will fail horribly, for the billionaires and the millionaires, the taxation of that. And, the Republicans have really amped up. I had posted a video yesterday about Trump having his rally, and it was on CPAC. I think I said C-SPAN, but I think it was CPAC. And nobody had on their mask. He's promoting his hatred, and they're gaining the momentum. They're really, really trying to pick up momentum here and shooting down these bills that are coming across in the House, in the Congress, or the House, one of them. Anyway, I feel that we need to definitely pay close attention to the stock market. Definitely pay close attention to our allies and other countries that are bouncing back quicker than the U.S., because it seems like we're last in the race. And you kind of wonder why we're last in the race. Is because the Republicans chose to respond very poorly to the pandemic. And I'm going to say the Republicans because Trump is a Republican, and that's what and who they chose to represent them. So if it had been Obama, it had been a hailstorm, okay? He'd been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We know this. We know that racism in America is real. And it's even down to the last itty bitty dollar or cents, that you have in your pocket. And we think that certain things don't involve us and it has nothing to do with us, and we brush it off. Trust me, I was on that frequency of thought. I was on that frequency. Now that Andy up the frequency, and you start to open your eyes to different things, and you start putting puzzles and pieces to the puzzle together and it starts to make sense. I was the last person to look at the stock market, to be honest with you. Now I understand a little bit more about the stock market. I understand a little bit more about the stock market. So I can't stress enough to where when they were having this conversation, this interview, it was so enlightening on the different ways that you need to view your money, view your household, view your longevity, that you choosing to leave your legacy, and what steps that we need to take moving forward, because they thinking they're giving a substantial amount of money and they're not looking at households that maybe consist of, let's say you got 5-6 kids. What if they're little kids? What if it's just one parent in the home? What if they're on government assistance? I mean, it's so much to look at it and look at the angles and the cost of living and break that down to every household. So they send out $1,400. They're gonna send out. We should get that mid-March. Then you're gonna do your taxes. Then they're gonna tell them how we gotta pay, but we already got back within our taxes. So politics, yo. Straight, dirty, grimy politics. And it's so real and it's so present. And in this stock market report, so much what this young woman was saying, I'm like, wow, that's why the U.S. is pumping these Johnson & Johnson shots. That's why. And it just clicked to me. It just came to me so naturally how I'm listening about stocks, but also learning about the pandemic and other countries, how they're coming back in Iraq and the UK, or and they're opening up their societies, but they followed every protocol or whatever the case is. Now we're over here in the States, and you got people of color that have been abused by the government and experimented on. So anything that's pushed out by the government, we're hesitant to take because we don't know what it's going to do to us. We might not get the same shot that Tyler Perry or any of the major big names got. We might not get there. We don't know. They're in a whole different tax bracket. This country and this world got me looking at things in a totally different light. So you got to understand, when you are going to your 9 to 5, and you're in your own world, you're in your own lane, what's your out plan? Because I know I'm getting older, I'm getting wiser. So what is the out plan? If we don't pay attention to these simple interviews that seem so harmless, so friendly, I had to Google some shit, I had to look some stuff up. I had to kind of read in between the lines to get the breakdown of the breakdown. Because like I told y'all, I'm very new to politics. And I'm very new to the stock market. So learning all of this and understanding it, it's like, whoa, really? Like, wait a minute, I had a blind moment. Okay? And I'm just so shocked how they are, and when I say they, I do mean the Republican Party, because they feel like they're the only party that's showing out. And I feel like the Democrats are doing everything they can. They're throwing everything out there as possible, to fight against this silent war. Because that's what it is. It's a silent war. We're so divided it ain't even funny. And I hate the division. But it's all over the mighty, mighty, mighty dollar. The rich controlling the poor. The upper hand leading. I mean, the way that they break down things from a geographical, standpoint, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's amazing how we're pinpoint at the last dollar cent amount. but yet and still they're hoping that we turn around, go spend this money, not understanding that people are homeless, living in tents, not understanding eviction rates are still up, not understanding that they want to reopen back up, okay, because they're getting this heavy flow of the the vaccine from Johnson and Johnson. So now they're saying you don't even need a second dose. Now they're saying you don't need a second dose. Now they're saying, only thing you need is this one shot, because studies have proved that once people have taken a shot, it worked 100%. So, what about the people who did get the double shots? Are they okay? I mean, I have so many questions. Like, this is so crazy, but I want to stay on topic. This is a stock market report that's talking about the operation of other countries opening back up that follow protocol. That's looking good in economically, standpoint of view. They're talking about the Beige Book and the report that is due to come out from that. So I want you guys to listen. Once again, follow in, and thank you for joining me on a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Here's the clip.
So my expectation is more volatility, but I think stocks will end the month higher than where they begin. And that's largely because the future is quite bright. We can look to Israel, which is already starting to reopen its economy because they've done such a good job with vaccinations, and that gives us an indication of what our future could be. Also in the UK, we've seen the Prime Minister lay out a roadmap to get to a full reopening by June. And that has consumers very excited. They're already booking travel. So I think that a robust economic recovery is in our future once we get that broad distribution of vaccines. And I think the market is processing that, and that's why I think stocks end the month higher than they begin.
What kind of timeline is Wall Street looking at for I guess, a reopening or some semblance of normalcy?
So we don't have a timeline as of yet. We're just not as far along with vaccines. But as you just mentioned, we have the Johnson & Johnson news. And so now we have one more vaccine in the United States, and an easy one to administer just because it only requires one dose. Johnson & Johnson is ready to ship millions of doses this week, so that should certainly accelerate our progress in terms of vaccinations. So hopefully soon we'll have more clarity on what reopening would look like.
The stimulus package, sorry, go on.
And the timeline for it.
Yes. The stimulus package, one step closer to actually being passed. I know we've been talking about a stimulus package for quite literally months at this point. But assuming that this $1.9 trillion stimulus does get passed, that is a lot of money that would be going to Americans. We're talking $1,400 stimulus checks, a lot of help as well for businesses. What kind of boost do you think that will give to the economy, and do you expect that a lot of that money will go directly into spending? What are you expecting the impact of that stimulus to be?
Well, I think it will largely be spent. That's certainly what we saw with the last stimulus payment that went out to individual households, right? We saw this nice bump up in spending in January. And I think we'd likely see the same thing with additional stimulus money paid directly to households. Keep in mind that while there are some Americans that have done very well during this pandemic, others have really been hurt. And so any money that they get, they're likely going to spend right away. And that should be positive for the economy.
We're also expecting the Federal Reserve Beige Book, that report coming out soon. I know you've said a lot of people ignore it, but you pay close attention to it. What are you looking for?
So what I'm looking for is anecdotal information about what's happening in the economy in the different districts, right? Because it's more of a close-up look at different regions and what's happening there. In particular, what I'm interested in is sentiment among business owners. I suspect this is going to be a good year for CapEx because there's more economic policy certainty, and there's actually more certainty in general now that we have these effective vaccines that are being rolled out. So I'd like to see, and I'm hoping to see, plans for greater capital investment. So that's the number one thing I'm looking for in the Federal Reserve Beige Book.
We're also waiting for the all-important jobs report. Are you expecting more jobs created? Any predictions for what we're going to get? That report comes out Friday.
So expectations are for well less than 200,000 jobs created, and I think that's probably about right. That's what we should expect. We're still in the thick of difficult times, right? We still haven't controlled the spread of COVID-19 entirely because we have to worry about those more virulent strains that are now spreading. But having said that, I think that will be received positively. I think that's what the market expects. What we could see is if the non-farm payrolls number is much higher than expected, that could cause concerns about inflation. Keep in mind that is an ongoing fear that we're seeing in markets. That would, of course, usually manifest itself in a rise in the 10-year yield, a temporary rise that could cause some kind of short-term sell-off in stocks. I would ignore it. That's the kind of volatility we should expect in this kind of environment because there are jitters around inflation. But having said that, I just expect a strong economic recovery. It doesn't have to be with significantly higher inflation.
Given what the Fed is doing in terms of quantitative easing and just being so accommodative to the markets, and given the good news about the vaccines, is there anything that you could see that could possibly derail this bull run?
Sure. First of all, we're in a race against time. We need to distribute vaccines before we see a big spread of those mutations, right, that are so much more contagious. So that could be a real problem if we aren't able to control it. The second issue, of course, is if we do see significantly higher inflation and the Fed's hand is forced. I think it's very unlikely. We've heard again and again reassurances from the Fed that they won't do that, that if we do see a burst, an increase in inflation that's significant, that they'll treat it most likely as transitory. But I do think that's a significant threat, and that's why we saw that stock market sell-off last week when yields rose higher.
All right, great insight on this Monday morning. Thank you for getting up early with us. Christina Hooper, Chief Global Market Strategist over at Invesco. Appreciate it. That's all for now.
So that was this morning. Well, I listened to it this morning, but the interview took place on another podcast stream. So I want to give that podcast stream some credit. I just have to research the source. But I was listening to it, as you could hear, on my Google speaker. And I was like, oh my goodness, let me record it because the conversation was so good. And the things that you missed earlier were, definitely pinpointing on getting the vaccine out, and we are a bit behind. And I want to, call a spade a spade. If we're behind, why are we behind? Why is this country behind when we were used to being first? It's because of the leadership of the Republicans. Anytime that people don't want to take, or account of people don't want to take responsibility. And I'm not saying Democrats are perfect. Like I said, I'm neither side. But anytime that a group of people don't want to take accountability of things that have happened under their watch, that's scary. That's not the proper leadership this country needs. We need people who are going to be open-minded to everyone's concerns and everyone's well-being in this country. And you had a president that was in office, Trump, who's still acting as if he's the president, and he's still manipulating the system. And, these bills and these things are not passing. This is all a big gathering, a big meeting with the billionaires. And you'd be surprised how many people of color may be in there. But to carry on to what she's saying, it was Israel, not Iraq. I think I said Iraq earlier. It was Israel that, she said is opening back up, and the UK has, plans to do it as well. But we are not ready over here in the States. Honestly, it was not handled to begin with properly. So the trust wasn't there properly. Now you got Johnson & Johnson, who's teaming up with Merck to distribute all these vaccinations and get it out to the people. And then you're having problems because everybody don't want to take it. But then you're having another problem because this thing is breaking off to multiple different strands of infectious. And they don't know how to cure it. They don't even know how to cure the first damn strain. We just got that. So I hope y'all are paying attention, because everything is, of course, Big Brother is watching everything. Of course, everything is being monitored. Of course, we have to get on the right frequency. This has everything to do with you. If you think that clip that I just played from another source, if you think that doesn't have anything to do with you, you're crazy. We have to tune in. I definitely can't stress that enough. We have to tune in. We have to listen. We have to know what's going on. We have to know what the other sides are doing, because we're going to get caught so off guard, and it's going to be too late to double back. It ain't going to be no double back. It ain't no double backing now. So in order to keep the economy flowing, this is what the government is deciding to do, to pass stimulants. And they're going to take the minimum wage out of it. So they're not going to raise minimum wage, but they're going to send you a stimulus package. They're going to send us a stimulus package because it's desperately needed. And they think that's just more than enough. Not thinking that people have back bills, car notes, their kids' cars, middle class families that are trying, and they might have bought their little kid a Honda or, something, just trying to help motivate, keep the family going and proud. And then that's a struggle. So you think this doesn't have anything to do with you, but it does. And I giggle and laugh because I was once one of those people that say, oh, politics, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Oh, that's gibberish. Oh, that's that. Blah, 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 blah. They don't really care. You're right. They don't care. They don't care. And it's like, why should we talk about it? We should talk about it because it's dead smack to the fucking wrong. And we're the people. The government works for us, supposedly. We're the people. And we need to be governed better. And the fact that we're being taken over, and the fact that things are being brushed under the rug just because you may live in a certain region, and they come around the table and say, well, this region sucks ass and it's performing poorly. Well, of course, it's predominantly black. Then you go to this region, and then you go to that region. I don't know how the hell they dispute or talk about it, but it sounds about right to me. And the fact that this was supposed to be a clip talking about the stock market, because I'm getting into investing and want to do stocks, so I want to educate myself like anything or anybody should do before they jump head first into putting money into something. You should definitely investigate. You should definitely do your research. So I'm just listening, and I really enjoyed the interview the young lady gave, and I really enjoyed the person she was interviewing, and they spoke very clearly, professional. It was short and sweet. She got to some very key points about what other countries are doing and how their measures have worked, and we're lagging, and we're at a race against time. The only reason why we're at a race against time is because the man who had control of this country before the new administration, before everybody started blaming Biden and Harris, They're cleaning up shit that's a hot mess. And it's gonna take more than 4 years. So the Republican Party they're on their trail now. They're trying to build back their party now. And Trump is a big forefront of that party. And it's despicable. How do you people sleep at night? I bet with ease and butlers and maids and caviar in the morning and a shot of scotch. Fucking hypocrites. Y'all are a fucking joke. I declare, if, you know, I'm going to dig deeper. I'm just a little speechless when you start to realize how things go so closely together. And then, like I said, you know, I'm just getting in tune with my frequency. I'm just coming in tune to really caring about all of this stuff. And it's cool. It's okay. If you're not on it and you're not ready to receive it, then your spirit's not ready to receive it. But those who are on that same frequency, you know, so much of what we do in our everyday life, we could change the outcome of how we are governed. And I don't think we realize that as a people. And if we take back our communities and we step up in our own regions, we wouldn't have to worry about, well, we it wouldn't be a worry, but we wouldn't have to question the beige book, so to say, because it would show that the black community in any region is prospering. You know, that's what I'm about, on a little bit of this, a little bit of that, about educating my people, because I know it's people in my age and in my generation, and I know some of our train of thoughts, because we were, if you're 80s baby, you know the stipulations that come with 80s babies. That's the crack era, right? So we the 80s babies that grew up. And it's so funny how when you have these serious conversations with people and asking them, you know, seriously, what are your plans the next 3 years? Do you have any property? Do you have any, you know, investments? Do you know what your 401k looks like? Do you know what your portfolio looks like in a whole? You know, and if you're married and you guys have been married for over decade, you know, you're really more attentive to finances and a budget. And if you're not, then you need to get on one. I know me and my ex-husband, we had no problems with money. I think our only problems were we lived life. We're still best friends to this day. Shout out to Shy City. But it's funny how when you are younger and you start to grow, you start elevating. And I admire the kids that are getting it now. This late age of millennials, they're getting it now versus us, the earlier millennials. We're catching it. We're getting it. And some of us have gotten it, but we're catching it in the long run and able to pick up on the things that we need to do to make our legacy great moving forward. So I can't stress enough how that financial clip, that understanding of what the beige book is and the report that's coming out Friday, I look forward to seeing that report, because I'm going to do this episode is to be continued, because I want to bring the report of the beige book back on, and I hope you guys join me. I hope you guys have tuned in. Like I said, March is going to be full of madness. It's going to be that big gumbo of real serious topics. February was the launch. So we got familiar with a lot of relationships, a lot of man versus female on the spectrums, who's doing what and what, and some emotional topics. We did touch a little bit on politics with Trump. We did touch a little bit on mental health. So this time I want to touch a lot more on politics, a lot more on mental health, and understanding in the American household what the people are going through and how we're being governed. So it's important that we follow suit with this because other countries are doing things in a dynamic manner and we're lagging because of the leadership that we had. And now that we're lagging and that leadership was poor, the party that was represented is trying to rebuild themselves within themselves. And then it was rumors talked about it, and Trump stated on CPAC, and I think I said C-SPAN in the other episode, but it was CPAC. So I think he stated that he was not trying to create, and I quote, another party, end quote. So I can't stress enough how the Republicans basically gave the American people a big F you right across the forehead. Like, take it in the face. They don't care because why? A lot of them are cut from different cloths. And that cloth can be very expensive. And depending what tax bracket you are, depending on what table you sitting at, you have to be mindful of what you say. That's why you got a lot of celebrities, a lot of people out here that are power, and you look at little guys like us and we like, dog, why they ain't X, Y, and Z in it, and why they ain't that? Because investments have been made and money is on the line. So you got to respect that hustle and you got to respect that gangster. But what I will not respect, and I don't care how much money is on the table or what's going around, is the disrespect of one race. I will never accept that in this generation or the next life or on forth and on forth. I will never accept a society that's built to destroy and tear down and keep down those that are of color. That is sick to me. So I can't stress enough how I want us to rebuild these bridges. And if you do know and you love politics and you know how to talk that talk and walk that walk, I want to talk to you. You know, I can't stress enough how dirty, once again, the Republican Party is, because Trump is all over this Cuomo. This Cuomo situation, Governor Cuomo, I hope I'm saying his name right, in New York. I find it hard to believe this man has been around as long as he's been around. And all of a sudden, and I'm going to say all of a sudden because he's going hard and has went hard with the dumb accusations that Trump has come across, of course. You know, he said drink, what, bleach? You know, I mean, the crazy shenanigans we experienced. So all of a sudden, Trump got this case in New York, and he's coming after the governor. This is all politics. Where did this little girl come from? Who is she? You know, baby girl, I just don't believe you. I'm sorry. Who paid you? Who sent you? This is an inside job. They're trying to destroy this man who's, and please, I don't know, don't quote me. I think he works for ABC. I'm not sure. His brother. So his family, his legacy, and I'm not saying that, you know, everybody's perfect, but I just have it in my brain to know that this man is not that stupid to jeopardize the family legacy, name, and his career as well. So this has Trump name all over it. He called fake news. He called shit news. You a crook. You're a straight crook, straight criminal, straight gangster. You are the true definition of a nigga. Ex-President Trump. I'm sorry, a spade is a spade. You don't have to like it. A spade is a spade. You put the N in nigger. You really do. And I hate to use that word, but that word is the only word that fits that personality in that character. Because that's who he is. We thought Barack was classy. The Obamas, shout out to the Obamas. They're a classy very sexy, attractive, a couple, a power couple, a light, a gift. A lot of people got they things they want to say about Obama. Hell, nobody's perfect, but he's nothing like Trump. Hell, George W. Bush, even though they families were crooks for years, they ain't nothing like Trump. This is a sickness that's being created within this party. So be mindful on what side you take. Even though you may be in a different tax bracket, even though that may help you in your line of business or whatever that it is that you do, but is it right? If I was in a position to where I was in a different tax bracket and I had to go with what best suits my life, I don't care if they were giving breaks, tax breaks after tax breaks. I'd rather pay the damn taxes. Wanna know why? Because I stand for something. You know, some things money just can't buy, and that soul is one of them. And we have to reinvent that in humanity. We have to think about all the children on that border that don't have their parents because this man handled a situation so ugly. So ugly. These kids don't even have their parents, haven't seen their parents. It ain't no telling when they're going to be reunited. All because of one administration, the Republican Party. They don't see people. They see dollar signs. They don't see souls. They see dollar signs. And how they're going to keep their legacy going. That's all it's about. At the end of the day, it's cutthroat. It's simple, it's dry, it's cutthroat. So we the little people, we at the bottom waiting for them to throw us some coins. And I have to use the words of Tupac, you know, the late Tupac Shakur. I believe I saw a video clip, and I'm not going to quote this word by word, but he was saying something in the nature of, you see the little kids standing in the corner, you know, at first they're knocking at the door, and then after a while, they're just busting that bitch in. Same formula here. You know, the people, we're so nice. If you would see how other countries treat their governments, we the people are so nice. We're sweethearts over here. We just take it. No Vaseline. And then the innocents say, oh, it has nothing to do with me. Oh, I'm not into that stuff. I don't even, you sound retarded. Wanna know why? It has everything to do with you. You can be helping change and clean up this shit if you just start somewhere. I don't care where you start somewhere. Build it. It will come. I'm that mentality. I'm on that frequency. If we don't start educating ourselves and understanding that knowledge is power, understanding that we have an obligation to this world, and it starts with us, it's going to end with our children and their children. So we have to put our best foot forward. And it's so shocking to me. North Carolina kids did not perform well in testing. They did not. My sources, I can't give at the moment. It was on my Good Morning Google speaker. And I heard this once again. Like I said, I was drinking my coffee, getting ready for my day. And sources say that North Carolina is performing very bad since the pandemic. So not only are your kids suffering, education, they're not really learning shit. Because parents, are trying to maintain a household, maintain food on the table, try to maintain some book work and teachings, Most people say it's no excuse. Oh, it is an excuse. It's an excuse. Because you don't have every household that has two parents. And if that mom got to say, baby, don't open this door for nobody, and I mean not nobody, because mama got to go to work so we can have a roof. It's plenty ways this plays out. So this is such a trickle me down effect. Yes, I had to get country on y'all. It is. So the kids are suffering. The kids are depressed because they can't grow within the year the way they need to grow, learn and go through the things that we went through in middle school and high school. So he affected so much in that time that he was in power. He should have been impeached. He wasn't. So that gives him another go around. That gives him another chance to come around. So we have to be honest with ourselves. Are we ready for this next go around? Do you think your comeback game is going to be that strong? Do you actually think that your comeback game is going to be that strong when you still continue to work for others? Yes, it takes money to make money. But if you're not developing a plan now to build your empire, to own your property, your land, and then teach the team, which is your babies, so they can teach their babies, that each one teach one comes into play. And y'all know that's what I promote here on a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But we got to stay educated. We got to stay woke. And the only way this is going to happen is if we tune into that frequency. People think Section 8 is still available. It's like it's still relevant. In the state of North Carolina, they don't have to take your Section 8 voucher. You best to wake the hell up. They don't have to take it. And I keep informing you guys, and I keep telling you this for a reason. We have to get less dependent on the government. We have to create our own monopoly in our own communities. We have to take those back because they're monitoring this. And they're seeing this, and they're seeing the performance. And ain't no telling what they're going to swoop and come in and try to take over. But if you're snatching back your own communities, you ain't got to worry about it. Because what can they take when you own it and you refuse to sell, and the person down the street refuses to sell, and the next person refuses to sell? That's why the cost of living is going up so much, because nobody wanted to stand in the community. North Charlotte is a completely different community. Sugar Creek is becoming a different community. I'm not even going to start with Uptown. That looks totally different. And I am speaking of my city, which I love. I was born and raised Charlotte, North Carolina. But we have to make sure we turn in the right foot each day. We need to make sure that we're keeping the right foot forward each day. And I get excited when I talk to you guys because I really want y'all to see the passion. I want y'all to feel the passion and the motivation excuse me, that I'm coming with. Because if we stay locked in our boxes, we're going to fail as a community. Let me say that again. If we stay locked in our boxes, we're going to fail as a community. You may not think you need the next person. You may not think that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with you on a larger scale, much larger scale. You know, that each one teach one plays a serious role, especially if you're in an important role and you can help the other person understand what's going on. And just by me listening to the stock market clip, I understand what's going on in the political world. I understand what's going on in the stock market world. And I understand what's going on with the United States. So I have a wide range of awareness right here. And I'm going to bring that to y'all each time. But some of us don't even think like that. Some of us ain't even on that frequency. They just, oh, we're just trying to pay the rent. I got 5 kids to feed, or I got to take care of Lil. I got this one got sick. This, everyday life. Shit happens, right? So you think the last thing you need to worry about is what's going on with the stock market. That's everything you need to be worried about. We have to pay attention. My best friend, he died of cancer. John, rest his soul. John tried to get me into trading stocks when I was in California. And I thought John was crazy as hell. I said, John, I ain't messing with that. That ain't me, bruh. I ain't here to play and slang in the stock market. Lord, how I wish I could talk to John right now. And that was just maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I think. He was trading in the stock market. Learned how to do it and wanted to sit and mentor me and show me what it took to do it. And he was successful in it. Very successful in it. And I'm thinking, hey, I got you. That's why I got you. Boy, I wish he was here so I could pick his brain. I wish he was here so I could get those teachings now. Because I wasn't ready to receive those teachings then. So now that I'm educating myself, I want to pass the knowledge on to you. I want y'all to definitely stay tuned. Come back. Come back. Who was that? Was that Friday? Was that Smokey? I think it was Ice Cube. Okay. Come back. Because this is going to be a to be continued episode. Because I want to know what the Beige Book report is going to say. I want to know what regions are performing. I want to know. And I think we all should know. So if I know, you guys are going to know. So please stay tuned. This episode is going to be continued. And we're going to find out Friday what the report has to say. So once again, thank you for tuning in to a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Until the next time, peace and love and blessings. A whole lot of that. Little